Yeah,
Awesome.
so recently I've had a problem where like I'll make these careless mistakes on my tests or my exams. Like maybe I'll like forget to use the right formula or I'll like accidentally put the wrong symbol. What would
Hmm.
you suggest me do for that? Like I do for
Okay,
that?
yeah, yeah. And so when you said formula and symbols, you're probably talking about some sort of calculating tests like math or maybe like physics, something like that, yeah?
Yeah, I actually have physics this sem, and that's kind of what I'm trying to focus on.
Physics this semester, yeah, for sure. Physics is tough. You said grade 11, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, for
pretty
sure.
tough.
Grade 11 physics was pretty tough. Well, there's a lot of different ways you can approach this situation. I mean, again, repetition. Like, if you want me to give you the most organic and the most basic answer, probably the most solid answer as well, which is just repetition
Mhm.
is what makes it perfect, right? If you are like, it's hard to get things wrong or hard to make a careless mistake if you're doing it from muscle memory, if you get what I'm saying. But
Yeah,
obviously,
for
you didn't come here
sure.
for basic answers, right? So I'll kind of break down a little bit further what I mean. Another thing you can do, again, is just constantly review. And what I like to do a lot of the times, especially when I take tests, this is different from exams, but usually when I take tests, unit tests or quizzes, I finish in about like around the halfway point. If it's a chunkier test, it might be like, 3/4 of the way. And then I'll use the rest of the time to just go over my answers. I'm sure you do the same, right?
Yeah. Um, what would you suggest I do if I don't have the time? Like, let's say it's like a really big test and I just don't have the time to review it.
Yeah, well, again, process of elimination, right? Strategizing where you don't have a lot of time, and so you kind of have to allocate your time onto the things that you know are like probably wrong, right? So I'll give you an
Mm,
example. Maybe you have 5 questions. You know that one, two, and three are good. Four and five is risky, so you kind of have to go back on those. But again, in terms of repetition or just not making careless mistakes, like this one's really up to the person, and it happens. It happens a lot. Um,
yeah, for sure, for sure.
but if you're looking at like if it's happening constantly, it might have to do with your preparation, how prepared you are for the test, how your time management, or even just how much sleep you're getting. Right? If you're going into tests really sleepy, you're probably gonna miss some shit. You know?
Yeah, I'd say I get like decent amount of sleep, like usual 8 hours. It
Yeah.
doesn't like the careless mistakes don't really happen a lot. It's just it adds up, you know. Like if one here, one there, this kind of stops me from just getting the grades that I'd like to have.
Mm-hmm. Well, and actually, why don't you tell me what the grades you have are?
Yeah, like I would appreciate or like to have my grades be maybe a couple percentage points higher, like just my overall
Yeah, for
average.
sure.
Cause
Do you
I'm
mind just telling me like what the numbers are? Because then I would have a better idea of like
yeah, sure.
exactly where you're
Like
at in
my
terms
average
of.
is like around a 90 right now.
Okay, that's pretty
Uh,
good. That's pretty good. Not
yeah,
bad.
it's not bad. I do want it to be higher because I'm gonna be going into university soon, and I want to be able to get to the one that I want to go to, you know?
For sure. Is that overall or is that just for physics?
That's like just my overall
Okay.
for the four
Yeah.
courses that I got this sem.
Yeah, I mean, again, 90 overall, it definitely like it's not perfect, like it's not amazing, but it's definitely above average. So props to you there. Um, so if you're in that kind of level, or if you're in that kind of situation, then again, one last thing I would suggest for not making careless mistakes is understand the concepts really well, right? A lot of the times, especially with physics or like things like chemistry, even math, sometimes you have special rules or special or smaller concepts that you might not remember, right? So again, careless mistakes could be writing the wrong notation, forgetting units, forgetting to switch the sign. Maybe you wrote a negative instead of a positive, right? All these
Yeah.
things. Um, so double check, right? Uh,
Okay.
when you have enough time and you have extra time, don't just read through your own work because I think a lot of students make this mistake of looking at their own work, and they're just reading through the steps and they're not actually thinking, and they're just reading it like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, that makes sense, and so they're not actually. It's almost as if they're just proving themselves right, or
Mm.
they're telling them the exact same answer. They're coming up to with the exact same conclusion because they're just reading this the exact same thing. They're not actually thinking critically, and so when I like to review my answers before I hand in the test, I always try to challenge my own answer, right? Challenge my own um, work in the sense that I was like, hey, is this correct? Is there another way? Is there some secret or small special rule that I'm missing, right? But again, this question it's tough just because it's not exactly a black and white answer for this one, but yeah, you
Yeah.
just got to be a lot more careful.
For sure. Yeah, just one final question for this. You said that like you want to just redo, like check over the questions after. Like, would you say that redoing the question is like better than just like reading it over, or or is that just too time consuming?
I have done redoing questions before. Uh,
Oh, okay.
I would generally not recommend it just because it is time consuming, and sometimes you'll find that if you've already done the question already, you're just gonna feel like you're just gonna be inclined to do the exact same process again, and
Yeah.
and and so uh, it definitely has came in handy sometimes, but overall, like, as a general rule, I just personally wouldn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that 100%, 100%. Um, is it okay if I ask my next question that I had?
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
I bet. Yeah, so another thing that I have found is sometimes, I don't know if you also found this, it's just sometimes I just can't stay focused, like on those days where like I just feel tired and my attention wanders, or maybe just like my teacher is just kind of droning on. What would you
Yeah,
suggest me do? Because like it's starting to add up, and like I am missing some of my notes because of it.
for sure. I mean, again, I think this is something everyone struggles with, and even me, right? I'm not perfect. I always say in my videos, I'm not a genius, and the things that I say, I hope will help most people, but again, it might not be applicable for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Focus is a very, very tough one, and I emphasize on it a lot just because I used to be that exact type of person, right? I couldn't focus. I'm always on my phone all the time and all
Mm.
that bullshit. It can be a lot of different factors, right? It could be bad attention span. It could be bad sleep. And you told me that your sleep is good, but I'm just throwing possibilities out there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Um, and it could also just be your environment. If it's a messy environment, or you're sitting around friends that are like distracting and all that. Yeah, that could be something as well. It could also just be because you're not stimulated enough, and that kind of is attention span, but it's I think of it as a little bit different. Um, how should I explain this? When you're when you're doing something, for example,
Yeah.
when the teacher is taking up something on the board, sometimes it can be a little bit boring to focus on, especially if the teacher's going slow. You might find it more engaging if you were to look at your own paper while the teacher talks and takes up that question, right?
Okay.
And you're looking at your own work. I find this especially true with me. Um, Again, there can be a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, it's just finding out what works, right? And I know that in the perfect world, you want to be focused 100% of the time in class.
Yeah,
But
for
that's not
sure,
going to
for
happen.
sure.
Yeah, that's not going to happen most of the time. Even for the top students, right? They're not going to be like fucking right 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's a lot about strategy, right? School is a lot about strategy in the sense that, like, let's be real, you probably don't have enough time to do every single homework from all four classes that they're assigned to you, like every single day.
Mm.
And so you just got to pick what works, right? Pick what you need to do. And it's the same within class, right? Use your time wisely in the sense that, okay, use your focus wisely, right? How do you know when to focus on this, when to focus on that? Is this something that you need to like look at the teacher for? Is this something that you don't need to really listen to the teacher and you can kind of just do your own thing while the
Yeah.
teacher's yapping?
Adding on to that, would you suggest that I like focus more on the class that I want to actually be in, and then just like put less attention towards like the class that don't really matter as much to me? Or
Well, No, and obviously, like, there's two sides to the story with this one. But if you are trying to get into a good university, right? Obviously, your overall average matters, and so I wouldn't say like
Yeah.
fucking just drop a course or just fail that course, right? That's not good at all. Um, but again, you can place certain emphasis on different courses.
Okay.
For example,
Okay.
physics. It might be harder. It might be something you really enjoy. It might be something that is like very important for the career path you want to go down. And if you don't mind me sharing, do you know exactly where you want to go?
I mean, not really. Maybe I might become an engineer.
Engineering,
Maybe
yeah,
going mechanical. I haven't really thought that out
mechanical
yet.
engineering.
Kind of just
Well,
going day by day.
but again, okay, in that case, physics is very, very important to you, right? And so it
Yeah.
might be something that you like, it might be something that you don't like, but either way, it's going to be something that you might need to focus on. Um, So again, if you're not good at physics, pay more attention to that, right?
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
and you'll find with some courses, like some courses are super free. Like I don't know, art. Art is fucking free. So
Yeah.
again, some courses you're gonna get higher marks with less effort, just because that's the nature of the course. Some courses it might just be more enjoyable for you, so you're more productive. So yeah, just learn to strategize, right? That's really important. It's just being able to strategize everything because you only have a limited number of time, focus, right? Like how, like before your brain gets mentally tired. Um,
Yeah.
you know, time and focus. It's really important.
Yeah. Yeah, just adding on to that, would you say that like the teacher can affect your focus, or is that not a factor?
Oh yeah, 100%. There's some teachers who just won't stop like yapping. There's some teachers that don't teach at all and they just tell you to do your own shit and then you're fucking confused. Um, this one is tough, but again, I think you have to take the initiative as a student, right? If you want to get good grades and you don't want to be fucked, you gotta self learn, or you got to pay attention and kind of filter out what is important, what is not important, and like don't make enemies with your teacher. I've talked to some people in the past. They just like they don't fuck with their teacher, so they they don't pay attention in class. The teacher
Yeah.
doesn't like them, and then they just teacher doesn't like them. They give them bad grades, and then it's this whole cycle of just hate, right?
Yeah.
So again, whether or not the teacher is good or not, ask questions constantly. Well, not constantly. You don't want to like look like a
Bother
teacher's
them
pet.
too much?
Well, yeah, but again, ask questions when you need to. There's no shame in that. That's technically their job. And yeah, always try to be in a good relationship with them. You don't have to be the teacher's pet and glaze them, but just do whatever.
All right, so just make sure they don't hate me and like are chill with me then.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about you. It's not about them, right?
Yeah.
So you do what you need to do.
Okay. Okay. Um, what else? What else? Yeah. So, I don't know if you remember, but you know your first video, the one
Yeah.
7 mistakes high school students make that keep their grades low.
Yeah, my first ever video. You're an OG.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Been years since like your first post,
My
but
first. Oh, that's sick, bro. What the hell?
yeah.
Damn. Oh, that's actually insane. Yeah. What's up about it?
Yeah, so like one of the mistakes was like you said that students are like quote unquote brain dead, and they kind of talked about they don't think critically, they find like they don't put in effort, or they use like ChatGPT to do their work for them.
hmm
Like I find that I have the same problem because English is probably like my weakest course out of every single one. So like what would you suggest I do so that I can create these more complex ideas to actually help improve my English grades and other courses that need these critical ideas?
Yeah. So again, creative thinking is something that is. Well, it's almost like a lot of people think of it as a gift, right? Like, oh, I'm not creative. Oh, I'm not artistic, or whatever. But again, it
Yeah.
is a skill. Everything boils down to a skill. And you just mentioned using ChatGPT and all that. And so when I say brain dead, it just means you don't try to think for yourself. You always looking. If you can't figure out something, you want to just look at the answer right away and then kind of work your way backwards. That's the lazy approach. Obviously, sometimes it's helpful, but again, you're not challenging your brain, and then your brain doesn't get that. Well, your brain's like a muscle, right? So if you don't
Yeah.
if you don't train it, then and you keep feeding it information, but you don't train it for thinking, it's not going to perform well at when it counts. And so for English, right, a lot of the times when it comes to creative thinking or original ideas, you got to make connections, you got to explain things, rationalize ideas, right? And
Yeah.
I know English is an extremely hard subject, right? Just because it's the one that requires the most analysis. But again, it's a skill, and so I would say a good exercise is literally just whenever you have an idea, rationalize it and kind of really break it down. I do this all the time, and I think that's really helped with my English, which is you have an idea, and teaching people or giving out advice in YouTube has really helped me. But for a more practical tip for you would just be explaining things to your friends or telling him like, hey, I've got this idea, what do you think? And you explain it to them, they ask questions, and you break it down even further. And what you'll find is the more you have to explain yourself and the more you kind of have to dig deeper into your first initial idea, and the further you get
Yeah.
down into this, like, because your original idea is like the tip of the iceberg, and you're going
Yeah.
all the way down, right, in terms of how well you're thinking about it. And I'll give you an example, right? So let's say I think that starting YouTube videos is a good idea, right? And then people are like, okay, yeah, sure, what the fuck, you're not gonna make it. And then I'm like, yeah, well, I have this really, really good idea. I'm going to start talking about how to get better in school, and there's a huge audience, right? Like students are always on YouTube all the time trying to figure out like how to get better. And then like, okay, yeah, but you're not, like there's lots of YouTubers doing that. How are you gonna like? You're just gonna get drowned out by the bigger ones. And then you gotta continue to rationalize the idea and make it more detailed, right? And it's the same in English, right? You guys do the PEE structure, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
standard structure we use in
right.
my school.
So in well, the example I showed you was in an argument or where one person is kind of telling you like, no, this is not possible, and then you have to overcome that, right? But
Yeah.
in writing, you're kind of just talking to yourself. But so that's why you kind of have to predict it, right? And so when I say rationalize ideas, it just means prove to yourself that it works on a deeper level, right? A lot of people are, get ideas really quickly and they just like, okay, that they just roll with the first idea they have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So instead of like saying, yo, I'm gonna get better grades by studying, I'll have to be like, okay, how am I gonna do that? What is that gonna look like? And what other steps can I do to improve my grades? Like maybe hopping on this call with you or talk to other people.
Yeah, sort of, yes. Again, that is analyzing the idea further. But when we say rationalize, it's more like proving a point more than
Oh,
making a plan. Because when you're writing, right, a lot of the times you're writing argumentative essays where you're trying to prove a point. At the end of the day, right, you read about something, you prove a point, you want to make a connection, and you have to prove that these two things are connected, right? So it's more so like making it as clear as possible for the audience. And so a lot of the times, like again, to practice this, you just have to do more of it. And the way to do more, the easiest way is just to explain things to people, right? And share ideas with them, talk about it with them. But you can also do this in your own time, right? I don't know. Do you have any hobbies?
yeah. Yeah, I'm actually on the track team and the rugby team, so that's
Oh,
kind of the stuff that takes up a lot of my time.
for
And
sure. Yeah.
whether it's like at school training or just like on my own.
hmm Yeah, and so for those activities, right? Obviously, they take up time, and sometimes there's good days, sometimes there's bad days, but if we really think about it, right, when you say like, okay, why the hell am I even doing this in the first place? Then you have to justify that activity. You have to say, okay, well, I like being on the track team because I get in shape. I'm constantly pushing myself. I'm disciplined, and it makes me more disciplined. But then some of your thoughts start being, but okay, but it's also like, it takes a lot of my time. I get tired. Sometimes I get injured. But then you're rationalizing it again. You're like, okay, yeah, that's true. But then I'm also becoming more fit. I'm also maybe losing weight. And although, I'm losing time in this thing, it's not a big deal because there's other things that are actually losing even more time. And some people can say it's coping. But again, coping is just rationalizing for bad activities,
Okay.
right? For
Okay.
example, you're procrastinating on social media, and you're like, oh, but taking a rest every 20 minutes is good for you, right? That's coping, but it's just rationalizing at the end of the day, which is proving a point or proving why you think something is the way it is,
Okay.
and that'll help
Yeah, that
you. Yeah, yeah. Do you have any
yeah, that
questions?
makes sense. 100%. Yeah, that just makes a lot of sense and helped me understand it better.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah,
for
for
that.
sure. Because at the end of the day, right, you want to make everything very, very clear, and once you start making everything clear, because you'll, well, maybe you have or you have not experienced this before, but when you're given an assignment and someone tells you to do something, you have a lot of ideas in the beginning, right? But then you're going through them, you're like, I just can't think of anything, or things are not that good. When in reality, any idea can be a good idea, but then you have to rationalize it, right? You kind of have to go through that process of like, okay, is it really good idea to like, drink while driving? It's probably not, right?
Yeah.
And so you're filtering through these ideas a lot, and the way you filter through them is by rationalizing them and analyzing them. And
Okay.
you know, the better you get at it, the faster you can filter through them, and the faster you can think of that golden idea.
Alright. Alright.
Hopefully that makes sense. I hope I'm not yapping here.
Yeah. Nah, it's fine. It's helped a lot. I really helped me understand that.
For sure.
Do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just on the topic of extracurriculars, because like sometimes I just don't have time with balancing both of the teams, schoolwork. And I know you did a little video on that, but could you like maybe give some more in-depth tips since that was kind of more toward the general population?
Yeah, for sure. So in that video, and I'll probably make an updated one again. That was one of my unedited videos when I first started YouTube. So yeah, but I still like the idea, which is there's only five things that really take up your time, right? There's homework, there's sleep,
Yeah.
there's actually going to school and being physically at school. There's relaxation time, right? So that's like kind of recharging yourself because again, you kind of have to. Um, and that's different from sleep, right? Like if you're working 24/7, it's
Whatever.
you're kind of a
Yeah.
shell. You're kind of lifeless. But again, to each their own. And finally, there's extracurriculars, which you said. And so, before I give you or what I like, give you advice on what I think. Tell me about it. Like, are you struggling? What's the situation with that?
I wouldn't say I'm struggling. It's just like it takes up maybe an hour, hour and a half of my day after school, cause like my coaches usually put it after that. But
Hmm.
also at the same time, like I don't know if you know what rugby is or if you've ever played it, but it's a very demanding sport.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes I just don't feel like doing anything afterwards. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to ask you and try and see if I could do anything to help improve my current situation.
Hmm. Okay. Well, first of all, like props to you, bro. I think rugby is a really really cool sport. I could never play contact sports just because I'm too scared of being
Thanks,
injured.
man.
I play basketball, but that's a little bit different. But again, that's an extracurricular. I like to classify sports and other extra classes as all extracurricular. And so I don't know if you remember that video, but I said that there's two things that you can't control, which is sleep, because obviously you kind of need to get sleep, right?
Yeah.
And going to school, because you can't just skip school and drop out of school. That just doesn't work. But there's the three other things you can control, right? Which is relaxation time, um, homework, so how efficient you can be, and then also again, extracurriculars are not necessarily like they're also not very flexible, I guess. So mainly the things you can control is relaxation time and work at home, right? And so you told me that when you get home you're tired, and
Yeah. Generally, generally.
did you like eat right after or like
Yeah, cause like I have my lunch pretty early since that's when I have it, and then I'll just like eat after practice. Maybe if I've got the energy, I'll do some work and just go to sleep, and that's my day.
yeah, I mean very very consistent schedule, right? So that's good. I can see how you've gotten yourself up to the 90s for sure. What I'd say is, I mean, again, if you're hungry, like eat a little bit, but try not to eat too much. This is something that I personally really experience, which is when you eat a lot, you kind of just get foggy in your head in the sense that
Oh,
like yeah, you can't think. Like I don't know if you've ever experienced it before, but you ever eat a lot and then it's just hard to think, or you don't really have the energy to, you know,
kinda. Like I've
start
been
an
I've
activity.
been a couple buffets, and like I just
Yeah.
really don't feel like doing nothing after that.
Yeah, I mean, again, even just eating, like for example, sometimes I get hungry and I'll eat two bowls of food, right? Yeah, like just randomly eat two bowls of food, and then afterwards, when I go back to like film a video or study, or it's just so hard to start, and that's something that might just make it like it almost makes you more tired if you kind of get what I'm saying. So
A
that's
little bit.
something that's a quick fix you can try. Don't eat too much. In terms of recharge time, how do you usually like recharge or relax? Or do you not
Um,
really?
I do recharge, of course, because like it's kind of demanding my schedule. I mean, sometimes like I'll just chill, go for a walk, but other times like I'll kind of I'll just hop on social media, scroll on reels, that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
I mean, again, we've all been guilty of that before, so nothing to be ashamed of there. But yeah, as long as you keep your recharge time to like a minimum, I think it's fine. Again, I showed this or I introduced this concept, which is the 6 to 1 day rule. I don't
Okay.
know if in the video, I don't know if you remember. And there's also the 30-minute nighttime
Maybe.
routine. Um, so I've tried both before. The 30-minute nighttime routine is basically just like, before, like it's during the time when you brush your teeth, you shower, you go to bed. And, you kind of just relax, you do whatever, like, again, never, like, um, try not to ever, start doom scrolling on social media or fucking around with all that. All that hyperstimulation, especially when you go to bed, it hurts your
Yeah.
sleep. But um, I think if you can control it there, it's fine. It'll be able to get you up to like the 95s probably.
Okay.
But in terms of um, like studying, like how efficient would you say you are?
Mm, I think it depends on the subject, because some like I understand more, I'm more efficient at it. Some I'm not.
Yeah. Well, again, I post tips and tricks, but again, those things can help. But being more efficient at studying just means being able to focus longer. And if you can just make a habit of being able to work like 2 hours in a row, 3 hours in a row without taking a break, like you'll be good.
Mm.
For the most part, you'll make a lot of progress. Um, yeah, I mean, it sounds like, to be honest, it sounds like you're doing things pretty all right. Like you've got a 90 overall. You're working hard. You're consistent in most things. I think the push towards getting higher grades and getting to the 95 range would just be not making the careless mistakes, like I said, right? So
Yeah.
again, that comes with repetition, that comes with reviewing your answers, that comes with remembering, okay, what concepts or did I might have missed, or challenging your work. But at the end of the day, I feel like you're kind of just like looking for life to be a little bit more comfortable because you're working hard, and I'd say
Mm.
that you know work harder and embrace that, right? Because if you want to get to the 95 range, now some people they don't care, they want to get like 85, 90, and they'll be done with it. To those people,
Yeah.
that's fine. But if you want to, you told me you want to get to the 95 or at least increase by a couple percent. That's the way. Just stop making careless mistakes. Work a little bit harder. And obviously, it sounds really like general now that I'm summing it all up. But again, you can rewatch this video as well,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it'll. I think the ideas that I've given you today should help. Like, I don't know. What do you think? Like, has this been
Yeah.
helpful?
Like I've been taking notes on the side, and I definitely think that this could help me
For
maybe get
sure.
maybe an extra percent, maybe even two.
Yeah.
We'll have to see though. Maybe I'll check in with a
Yeah,
couple
yeah. Maybe,
minutes.
well, maybe we'll make another video and just be like, yeah, check in with Ryan again. But
Yeah.
yeah, thanks again. I really appreciate you for hopping on with this call with me, and I hope you've learned something. And to all the people who are watching, who are still watching, it's been 30 minutes, so hopefully, some of you guys are still here. But to those watching, I hope that you guys have learned something as well. And Thank you again.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to help me because I'm pretty sure that this will definitely help me get into the marks that I want.
Yeah, for sure. And remember, nothing I say makes a difference unless you do something about it. Let's go do
Yeah.
something about it.
All right.
All
See
right.
you, Daniel.
Thank you all for watching till the end of the video. I know this one was a little bit longer, and I hope that you enjoyed this kind of different format of unedited and longer videos. As promised, I will now tell you how you can become featured on the next one-on-one coaching video, and that is to leave a comment in the comments, and I will pick one lucky winner, and they will be, featured in the next video. Now, if you want to guarantee that you're on a one-on-one call with me and you just really want advice, I started memberships. Yep. This is just a way for me to kind of get enough money to start paying editors, paying thumbnail designers, and getting better equipment. So yeah, if you're interested, there's lots of different levels. I don't want to go too much into it just because this is not what the channel's for, but if you want me to reply to all your questions, you can buy the membership for like $3 a month. It's nothing crazy. If you want to be on one-on-one coaching calls with me, that one's a little bit more expensive. But again, you can check it out. Thank you all for watching to the very end.